Hi there, my name is Toby, and this is a 7-minute simple but unusual workout. We're only doing 4 exercises. We're working the hips, the shoulders, and the spine. And this channel is really all about body dynamics and chi energy. And these two things are very closely connected. If you want to develop the chi, you've got to develop your body dynamics. You've got to know how to use your body correctly. So this is 7 minutes of stretching and balancing. But it's got to be done in just the right way. So it's not just doing these things for the sake of it. You have to really work and concentrate on doing these correctly. So the first thing we're doing is stretching our shoulder across the body like this. But what am I doing? Now first of all, I've got to lift up the rib cage, lift up the shoulder, arch slightly back so I've got a good neutral spine, and I'm using one hand to pull the other hand around. But it's not so much the shoulder that I'm stretching. I'm trying to stretch the rib cage and the spine. You see, the shoulder gets pushed backwards. You see, now here's the other arm. Lift up the shoulder, lift up the rib cage. You can see me doing it there. Then gently start to push backwards. But continue to expand, breathe into the ribs, expand the rib cage. And when you push the shoulder round, you're really stretching it all the way from the mid-spine. You can see where my fingers are at the back. That's the mid-spine there. So I'm really trying to feel the stretch into my rib cage. It's not just the shoulder. You see, we don't want to overemphasize the shoulder joint. Be very, very careful. What I'm trying to do in this training is unify my body together. I'm trying to use the whole bone structure as a single unit. So no one particular joint is doing too much work. And that is, again, very particular. You think you're doing the shoulder, it's not the shoulder, it's the rib cage and the spine. And now we do the same one, but lift the shoulder up and down behind. So I'm lifting up the shoulder, lift up the rib cage, one hand gently pushes backwards against the other hand. But again, you see that I've got a backwards arch in the spine. I'm trying to hold a neutral spine, hold the belly pulled in tight, expand the ribs, breathe deeply into the back of the ribs, and then from there I'm very carefully pushing my shoulder back and down, gently feeling the stretch, but I'm trying to feel the stretch all the way up through my spine, through the shoulder to the back. You see, it's more about the rib cage itself. You've got to think about the rib cage as being an actual joint. The rib cage can move a lot. You expand and contract the ribs. That gives you more movement through your shoulders. And the rib cage can also move backwards and forwards, left and right. So you're actually mobilizing your rib cage against your spine. You're stretching the rib cage away from the spine. And you can see where my fingers are touching the mid-back. That's the point from which I'm stretching. I'm feeling the whole rib cage expand and stretch back. And there you see my belly is pulled in tight, and then relax and release. Always roll up the shoulders, let go, relax properly, and I do this big circle. Breathe in, hands up, breathe out, hands down, in between, just to settle the energy and balance everything out and loosen up the arms and legs. And now we come to the hip joint. So the same business. I've got to lift up the rib cage, lift up the shoulders, pull the belly in. So I'm holding a neutral spine. And you can see my shoulders are always up and back a bit. I'm bending the supporting leg and lifting up the other leg straight up. Hold the shin bone with two hands and pull the leg towards your belly, towards your chest. But it's the same thing. This is not just stretching the hips. I'm trying to stretch the whole spine. I'm actually trying to push my hip joint backwards. So I'm projecting my hips behind, pulling the leg inwards, but it's not so much pulling the legs in and up as trying to push the hips backwards. I'm trying to feel a stretch in my hip joint, and the supporting leg is still bent, and that is also projecting the hips back. So both hips are being pushed backwards. I've still got a backwards arch in the spine, so I've got to keep that neutral spine, and I'm trying to hold the balance. So you've got to balance into these positions as well. Now it doesn't matter if you wobble and fall over, you have to keep trying. The attempt is what is important. When you try to balance, you're going to work all the muscles in the hip joint and the spine to hold that balance. But it doesn't matter if you fail, you must just try. Every time you try and you try to catch your balance, you're going to work the muscles, work the hip joint. And then the same again on the other leg. Bend the supporting leg, try and find your balance, your center line through the supporting leg. So you're going to be leaning slightly towards the side of the standing leg. That will even out your balance. In the same business, I'm lifting my leg up, pulling it inwards, but it's not so much pulling the knee to the chest as trying to push my hip backwards. I'm trying to project my hip joint, and you feel the stretch right into the hips, and the heel is going towards the sit bone. So I'm collapsing my knee in just the right way. There's no twist in the knee. So that's the first one. And again, at the end, loosen up the legs, shake it all out, and do the big circle. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, sink down, and this just moves the chi up and down. You see, you've got to connect the mind and body together. To train the chi is about the mind-body connection. And now the next one, same business. Lift the leg up, bend the supporting leg, hold the shoulders up and back. Now I've got the other hand up a little bit. This is the neutral stance. I'm holding the one arm in the neutral position, the other arm is holding the leg, and I'm now pulling the leg outwards. I'm twisting the hips out. But at the same time, I'm trying to project the hips backwards and also twist the hip out a little bit. So at the same time as I'm projecting the hips back, I'm squeezing the glutes, pushing the hips forward, leaning into the supporting leg. The leg is bent, both legs are bent. You see, it's a very dynamic position. The arms and legs are all bent, even the spine is still in its natural S curve. Everything is bent, but nevertheless I am stretching. This is a stretch and a balance combined. So you need to involve your mind. You've got to feel this alignment in your body. Feel your center of gravity go down the supporting leg, and at the same time you feel the hips open and you're stretching out the spine, lifting up the shoulders and rib cage. You see, you're lifting up the leg not so much by using the arm, but using the spine and the rib cage. So you've got to use force to pull the leg in, but where does that force come from? It comes from the spine. Lift up, expand the ribs, use that expansion in the ribs and the shoulder to pull the leg up and out, and then breathing deeply into the back of the ribs, trying to feel that projection of the hips. And this is the secret to balancing. You see, the supporting leg, you're always going to be shuffling and wobbling on the supporting leg, but you balance from controlling the supporting hip joint. You've got to let the hip move in the socket, and now you can see me wobbling a bit, but I'm catching myself by controlling the hip joint, the tendons and the ligaments in the hips. You see, this is all about the joints, not so much the muscles, and we control the joints with the tendons and the ligaments. And here again, loosening up the hips by just twisting in and out and rolling the hips out in a big circle, loosening up, stretching out and relaxing the hip joint. And once more, big circle, breathe in and breathe out on the way down. Big stretch in, look up, stretch up, big deep breath out, sink all the way down, and this moves the chi up and down through your body. So now, having stretched and moved the hips and the joints, you then move the chi around, settle it in your belly, and get on with the rest of your day. So I hope this made sense and you enjoyed this little workout. Please do check out one of these other videos here, and I look forward to seeing you next time.